I don't want to add, but it looks good.
You see it now?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, welcome UNT Dallas. We are so thankful to you all for joining us this afternoon, or this evening rather. And a big thank you from our team here at Cloud for Good goes out to Arthur in the Office of Career Services. So thank you, Arthur, for welcoming us to share with you all about Cloud for Good and our new Salesforce consulting apprenticeship that we are starting here. Let's jump in. So who are you hearing from tonight? First is myself. I'm Lindsay Chiquina. I'm our Vice President of People and Operations at Cloud for Good, and I am based in a home office, like all Cloud for Good goodies, in Chicago. Kristen, do you want to introduce yourself quickly too?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Kristen Keister. I'm our Partner Alliances Manager. I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so not too far from Lindsay. And one of the things we're going to teach you guys about today is the Salesforce community, which is known as Trailblazers. So I couldn't help it. I had to wear my Trailblazer hoodie for you all too.
Much hipper than me, Kristen. That is good. That is good. So we also have a couple other folks on this slide too who are good for you to know. Madeline Bergstrom is our recruiter for our Talent for Good program. She's not on the call tonight, but she will be in a lot of touch with any applicants to this program. And then Tal Frankfurt, he is our founder and CEO at Cloud for Good, and is super excited, like we are, to be launching our new Talent for Good program. So in terms of what we're covering here, we're going to do a little bit about meeting Cloud for Good and meeting Talent for Good. We're going to spend some time, like Kristen just talked about, teaching you and introducing you more to the Salesforce ecosystem. We're going to talk about careers in consulting. We're going to meet a few of our goodies here on staff, and then we'll talk in a little bit more logistical detail about starting your career with Talent for Good. We'll hopefully also have time for a few questions at the end as well. So with that, let's do some introduction to Cloud for Good and who we are. We're really excited to be talking to you all about what we do, and especially about our apprenticeship program, which I will get to on the next slide. But before I do, I wanted to just give you an overview of who Cloud for Good is and what we do. So to start, just sort of really simply, we are a consulting company who implements a technology called Salesforce. And we do that in two big industries. We do that in nonprofit industries, and we do that in the education industry as well. We especially work with universities and colleges. We do what Salesforce does specifically is it allows organizations to really track all of their business functions, all of their relationships and communications and outreach, and do a whole lot more as well. And so what we do is we help organizations basically implement Salesforce in order to, service their impact, service their customers or constituents, and in our case, service the people who they serve, either as students for universities or as potential clients and volunteers or people they service if they're a nonprofit. This year, Cloud for Good was named Partner of the Year by Salesforce, both for our nonprofit work and in our education industry work as well, something we're super proud of. And we've gotten that a couple of years running now. So we take our role in the ecosystem really seriously. And a couple other things I like to tell people about Cloud for Good too is, while we really care about helping our clients get the most out of their technology investments, we also care a lot about creating a great place to work, and doing right by all of the people who are our goodies. We are a people business. We don't run a consulting business without great consultants. So it's important to us that we take really seriously things like, a great place to work survey, that we're a certified B Corp. We take our environmental impact and our people impact seriously with that. And we also have a really diverse leadership team as well. Over half of our leadership team identify as women, which is not typical in a technology space. And the racial diversity of our staff continues to grow too, and outpace other technology organizations, which is something we're really proud of. In terms of what we offer, like what we do, we have a few different types of consulting services we provide. First is that Salesforce implementation, which I talked more about on the previous slide. Second is a managed services offering where we offer nonprofits and universities long-term support and care for their Salesforce org. We also offer something called fundraising services, which are basically an effort to support the data and technology and outreach of these organizations. What we're here to talk about today, though, is that line in blue, our Talent for Good program, which is really being started because we see just a huge demand in the Salesforce ecosystem for experienced Salesforce professionals. There are actually hundreds of thousands of Salesforce technical jobs being created every year. And we want both to develop talent to fill those needs for our own, long-term hiring within Cloud for Good, but we also want to be able to provide really experienced Salesforce talent to our clients and the ecosystem as well. So Kristen's going to talk a little bit more about that in a few. In terms of the Talent for Good apprenticeship specifically, it's a 2-year fully paid apprenticeship where really you will work as a full-time employee, an analyst at Cloud for Good, learning consulting. You'll receive really deep technical training and certifications on Salesforce. You'll learn consulting, and you will work on client implementation projects throughout your 2 years. Really from day one, you have full salary, full benefits, paid time off, all of the things that any full-time employee at Cloud for Good would have. So it's a really good opportunity to start a career path in Salesforce and in nonprofit or higher education consulting. With that, Kristen, I'm going to pass it to you for the next few minutes to talk a little bit more just about Salesforce and the broader ecosystem that we work in.
Perfect. So I know these are a lot of new words, so we just kind of wanted to take a step back and talk about what is Salesforce. So Salesforce is what's called a customer relationship management system. That's often abbreviated into a CRM. And all that means is it's an application or a piece of software. It's cloud-based, but a platform that helps companies be better at talking to and working with either their potential customers or their existing customers. So it makes it easier for them to do better marketing. It makes it easier for them to sell to them. And it makes it easier for them after a sale to provide like better customer support and service to their customers. There's also kind of another side of Salesforce that's really been reflected positively in the last couple of years, which is the fact that because it is cloud-based during the pandemic, it's been so nice that everybody has been able to work from wherever they happen to be and still work in one application as one functioning team. And the result of that is they have happier customers, right? So there's many different types of companies that use a CRM or Salesforce customers, everything from banks to hospitals to like your local government. I thought I'd just kind of give you a couple examples so you can start to envision like what a CRM is. Down at the bottom, I was just going to pick transportation and hospitality. That's such an easy example. If you've ever bought a plane ticket, so say, United, since we're talking about being in Texas, they would put you in their system and say, okay, Lindsay has purchased a plane ticket. That's the easy part of a CRM, is just showing who a customer is and what their order history is. But then a good company is going to take that a step further and start tracking. Well, the last 3 times Lindsay bought a ticket, she picked a window seat. So now when she buys her 4th ticket, let's go ahead and put her at a window seat, and maybe she won't have to log in and change her seat, and she'll be a little bit happier with us. So it's all about taking everything that you know about a customer and using that to improve their experience with you every single time. Or something like Adidas, they're a great example of a retail customer. If you went on and bought a new pair of like Stan Smiths online, they track really interesting things like what time of day did you buy your new shoes, and did you buy it from your phone or did you buy it from your laptop? So that way they can market to you again at midnight on an email that's mobile optimized and hope that you're going to pick up a new pair of shoes. So those are just some examples of like some of the different types of companies that use Salesforce. But Lindsay, if you can move on to the next slide. Like Lindsay mentioned, what we really care about is education, nonprofits, and healthcare foundations, which would be like hospitals and the arm of a hospital that's raising money. For nonprofits, they care a lot about tracking their donors, about tracking their volunteers, and trying to get smart with that, right? Like try to find somebody who maybe has given their time and is willing to be a volunteer, but hasn't made a donation yet, or vice versa, and really looking into that data and understanding their constituents a little bit better. For education, I thought the easiest thing to do would be to give you an example of how you guys are using it at UNT. So all three campuses, Denton, Dallas, and the healthcare campus, all use Salesforce for recruiting and admissions. So if you think back years ago when you got those emails that said, you know, oh, we'd like you to check out the campus, all the way to, oh my gosh, you forgot one form, your application isn't complete yet. That's all Salesforce that's driving that for UNT. And then on the Denton campus, Dr. Jennifer Lee, who is the IT senior director, she took it a step further through the pandemic and actually built out a custom application on Salesforce for COVID contact tracing and then for vaccine tracking once they became available. So you guys have really embraced Salesforce on campus. And I thought that was neat to show like two different examples of how you're using it.
Very cool.
Cool. Okay, so then where does Cloud for Good fit into all of this? So Salesforce is a product. They have their own sales teams. Just like if you went and bought a house, you can buy a product. You can buy Salesforce. Cloud for Good then is the implementation partner that helps people customize it. So Adidas might need to know shoe size, United Airlines does not, right? So you can see that there's a difference in how different companies might use this. So that's what we do. We come in and we listen and we hear what they need and how they want to change it and tweak it to their needs. And we build them kind of a bigger, better Salesforce that's customized for their business. Now, when you work with a consulting partner, there are many different roles that you could take. Lindsay, if you don't mind going to the next slide.
Yeah, here we go.
Perfect. So I don't want you guys to think that you'd have to be a computer science major or you have to be technical to be in the Salesforce ecosystem. I was not. You're going to hear the term a lot, an accidental admin, meaning somebody who worked in a different department. They inherited Salesforce, like, guess what? You own this now. And so they became an accidental Salesforce admin. And that's what happened to me. So I started as a Salesforce admin, moved on to be a consultant. I was an architect for years. And now I'm more on the sales and marketing side where I've kind of taken all those skills and said, I don't really want to do the work anymore. I just want to work with other people who want to learn how to do it. So as you see these roles that are available, you can move from a junior to a senior resource and stay in one track, or you could move around. There's just so much opportunity to keep growing your skills once you're in and once you're in the ecosystem. All right, Lindsay, I share a little bit about my story. If you want to share a little bit more about a couple of the other goodies.
Yeah, I will. So let's look at a few of our goodies who are on staff right now. We pulled a few examples of people who are working full-time in different consulting roles on our team. Yi works on our data team as an integration consultant. Aisha works as a senior cloud consultant. She focuses on project management on our nonprofit team. And Crow works as a data specialist also on our data consulting team. What I thought was interesting about all three of them, and they're all somewhat representative of our staff, is that they come from a variety of academic backgrounds and school types as well, right? There's not necessarily an archetype of you have to have this XYZ degree in certain things, even to go into a pretty technical role like an integration consultant. So someone like Yi or Crow, who is working on our data team, they have a big background both in Salesforce, but also in data analytics, data migration, data integration that they've developed through different pathways over time. I pulled the two of them out because one of the two analyst roles we have open in our Talent for Good program is a data analyst role, which will eventually work their way onto our data team, which the two of them are on. And then the other role is a consulting analyst role who will work their way into more of a building, project management, type of focus in terms of consulting skills. Both analyst roles that we have open are consultant roles. They just have slightly different pathways as they become more experienced within the Salesforce work. Let's keep moving. Let's talk a little bit more on just a day in the life and sort of the progression of someone who's joining our Talent for Good apprenticeship. So let's meet fictional Sophia. Sophia, maybe you're out on the call here right now. Sophia is a college student, let's say, right here at UNT Dallas. She is attending this information session and learning about a career path in Salesforce and decides to apply. She applies and she goes through basically a 3-round interview process that we have. There is an initial interview, there is an assessment where we actually give you some work right on the Salesforce platform, as well as some really good learning instructions to make sure you can get your feet wet and that you actually like that kind of work. We don't want someone coming and joining a multi-year, 2-year apprenticeship who's like, oh, I actually really don't want to be doing this Salesforce thing. So we actually have that as a activity in our interview process. Then there's 2 rounds of interviews with people on our team as well. We want to make sure it's a really good fit for Sophia and that Sophia is really excited to be joining our staff as well. Then she moves to an offer stage. Then she gets ready to start in our cohort. This first cohort of analysts will kick off in late January, early February of 2022. So in just a couple of months after the holidays. Before we start, she has a variety of onboarding. She gets to meet the other people in the cohort because it will be a group of analysts going through together. And she does all of the preparations for day 1 of her virtual job at her home office desk come January 31st. When she first starts in the first 3 months of the apprenticeship, it's a really training focused slate of activities. There's technical training on Salesforce, there's consultant training and all of the skills that go into managing a project and working with clients. And then there's a whole variety of information about Cloud for Good and the industries that we work in so that our analysts are really prepared to go on and be, full-time consultants. So fast forward to month 4 through 10. Sophia starts to be placed on Cloud for Good projects where we're implementing Salesforce for those types of organizations that we've already talked about. She's getting hands-on experience building applications in Salesforce, hands-on experience implementing Salesforce, hands-on experience in a variety of client calls, but there's a lot of mentorship, a lot of support, a lot of coaching that she has, particularly across that first entire year at Cloud for Good. Then as she marches out through, month 18 and month 24, all of the support and mentorship doesn't go away, but it does become a little less frequent as she becomes more of a full-time consultant on all of these projects that we're talking about. Ideally, she's getting experience on higher ed projects and foundation projects and nonprofit projects, so she can kind of start developing a career path and a slate of interests and what she wants to go on and do. By the end of the 2-year apprenticeship, she's probably likely going in one of 2 directions. Maybe she remains on staff and becomes a full-time senior consultant here over time. We would love that. We are hiring lots and lots of consultants every year, so we would love for her to stay. Or perhaps she wants to go work more, with an individual client and be on the client side, right? We set up a big Salesforce instance for an organization. They need to hire 5 people or 10 people to run that entire IT system and all the business processes and all the improvements on it over time. So maybe she goes and becomes a full-time employee over at whatever client. So it's a little bit of an idea of how the 2 years works. From here and where we're going to close is just a few final logistics about the program. Like I said before, it is a 2-year apprenticeship. It's kicking off in late January, early February. The starting salary, it is a salaried role. It's not hourly. It starts at $50,000 base salary for the year. And by the end of the 3rd month, that classroom portion that I talked about just a moment ago, there is an immediate potential for a $10,000 salary increase Should the apprentice pass their certification exams and their other performance assessments, we anticipate that 100% of people do that and move right on to starting to work on client projects. Then there's a pretty mapped slate of compensation increases over time. And you saw on that slide that Kristen shared that there's a lot of earning potential in these Salesforce careers, which I think is a big plus. The apprentices are full-time Cloud for Good employees with full benefits. From a citizenship or permanent resident standpoint, we are accepting people who are authorized to work in the US or Canada, not outside those. And there is a small travel requirement, ability to travel up to 20% of your time in your first 2 years in the role. The last thing I'll talk about is just what our company benefits are. We have a really healthy slate of staff benefits that we want to make sure this is a great place to work, that's really helping our people become, happy employees, and also have all of the things they need, right? We have a full slate of insurance benefits, competitive compensation packages. We have plenty of paid time off, PTO, for vacation or sick time or other things. We are a fully virtual remote workplace. So everyone works from home in a home office, and we provide things like internet reimbursements and computers and everything you need to be able to do that. And then certainly we provide a lot of learning and development, as well as that work from home atmosphere is one that becomes really pet, family, plant friendly, for those of you that have those obligations. So I'll stop there in terms of the benefits and end with how you apply. We have an application right on our website. The URL is on your screen there. And there's 2 pathways on the application, the data analyst role and the consulting analyst role. The application should take about 10 minutes to finish. We only require uploading a resume. And we are hopeful that you might be interested based on this information session that we did. One other tip, we listed here on the right-hand side of your screen a whole variety of people who are, active players, or even in some ways like slightly Salesforce celebs in the Twitter sphere. So check them out, follow them if you want to learn more about Salesforce, about the kind of work we do, about Salesforce consulting, etc. I especially recommend Tal Frankfurt there. He's our CEO, who I mentioned at the top of the call. So check him out there too. That said, that's all I've got. And we can, I know we're right at the 5:30 slot, but we can, happy to take a couple of questions if any are out there. I'm not able to work all of my controls. Kristen, I don't know if you can see controls. Because my screen sharing, I see that.
I can. I just unmuted them.
Oh, thanks, Arthur.
No worries. Sorry, I'm here in the background. So if you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself or type it in the chat.
Thanks, Arthur.
No worries.
Okay. I joined the thing a little bit late, so I don't know if I missed that part. I want to know, like, what's the difference between the consultant path and the data analyst path?
That's a great question. So both pathways are consulting roles. The data analyst pathway requires experience in some data analytics coming in, particularly SQL experience. That role is going to work really heavily in client data, including data migrations, data cleaning, data integrations, and data design. Our consulting analyst role is going to be more of a generalist role. So they're going to be less technical on the data side. There is not a requirement in terms of, pre-learning or Salesforce experience or something like that. But the kinds of roles that a consulting analyst can go into might be someone like a business analyst, a Salesforce admin, a builder or configurator of Salesforce or different apps that are in Salesforce. or potentially into project management and more client-facing work.
And okay, and which of the path is like I know you said like everything in Salesforce is pretty much good, but I want to know like which of the pathways is the best one, like pays more, like like in terms of like salary, of like job availability, like on the market.
I think it's more of like what your interest is. From a market need, I would say there's like a massively healthy market need on both roles fronts. I would say a data pathway is going to be more of a technical pathway long term, and the consulting analyst is going to be more of a functional, people-facing type of role long term. So I would recommend you lean towards the one that you feel like is the type of work you want to be doing day in and day out. If you feel like you could be qualified for both, you can also apply for both.
Yeah,
Think about how you want to spend your day. If you're somebody who can sit still and work for 8 hours by yourself, and you could work with data, I think that you take that into consideration, your personality. If you're somebody who needs people and you need to be people facing and you want to learn about many different businesses and talk to those different customers, then it's more like the consulting.
Okay. Because the thing, I started learning like Salesforce on my own. I bought a class on Udemy, and then I've been trying to learn like the Salesforce admin for like pretty much like 6 to 7 weeks now. I'm going slow, but in the meantime, I'm doing like a bachelor in IT, where I did like I'm learning SQL, like data design and data admin. So I want to know like which one is like pretty much fit like the skills like I'm learning at school right now. But I guess it's that one.
It sounds from that like you might be more on the data, more aligned with the data path. But that's like from my really brief, right, hearing of your background. But I think particularly the SQL background and some of the coursework it sounds like you're doing could be really aligned to that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for the engagement.
You're welcome. Been interested in Salesforce like for a long time because I have many friends telling me like it's a new thing, like the new IT things to do. So I was kind of like trying to learn that, and and then this opportunity like showed up in my mailbox today. So I'm like, good.
Well, perfect timing. That's great.
Yes, I say the same. We're so glad you joined us today.
Me too, Mr. Lindsay.
Are there any other questions from our participants, either on Zoom or on Facebook who are viewing?
Getting fancy there on me.
I know, right?
Yes. I like it.
Well, and for those who will hopefully watch the replay, it will be ready for them.
Great.
I have a question.
Sure.
After we apply, how long would it take to get like an email back notifying us if we got an interview or not?
Yeah, it would be about 7 days or so, I'd say. If you haven't heard back and you think you submitted one and got the like approval screen, like we received your application, you can reach out to Madeline Bergstrom. Her email is right on the screen there. And then I think Stephania, I think we can also take your name and check on that too, if you'd like.
Okay, I haven't submitted it yet, but I'm gonna submit it today. But
oh,
that's
okay.
just a question. Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
I would imagine that's awesome news, and I'd imagine you'll hear back. I would imagine you'd hear back this week on if you are being invited to that first round interview.
Okay, thanks.
It likely wouldn't be scheduled this week. It would likely be scheduled next week, but I would imagine you'll hear this week. Yeah, we're going through them daily.
Okay, and is there like a limit applications you guys accept?
Not right now. Applications are opening and we're reviewing them on a rolling basis.
Okay, but like for the people, because
How
sometimes
many?
people like, yes.
Yeah, we're looking for this first cohort to have about 15 analysts in it.
And consultants as well, or in total?
Total analysts,
Total.
consulting and data analysts together. Yeah.
Okay, so it's gonna be competitive, sort of.
I think it will be somewhat competitive, yes.
Mhm.
I also think if you are going through the process and we think you're a potentially great fit, we're going to have future cohorts too, Stephania.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
sure. Great questions.
We want the whole cohort to be full of UNT Dallas students.
I would love that.
So no pressure to the ones that are joining and who will be watching later on.
There you go.
Well, I know I have a huge favor I like to ask at the end of all of our presentations that for those who are joining us live, please take our survey. We value your feedback. We love your input. It only takes no more than 15 to 30 seconds. It's mobile friendly. So we would love if you could provide a little bit of feedback for us. That would be greatly appreciated.
Well, great. Arthur, thank you again for helping us set this up. We appreciate you.
No worries, anytime. Look forward to hosting you guys again, whether virtually or in person, whether if it's not before the end of the semester, definitely at the beginning of the semester. We want to keep the momentum going.
Love it. Thank you so much. And we'll look out for those applications, y'all. Thank you. Take care.
Have a good one.
Thank you.